Amelia Boynton, who was, upper class as Afro-American person could be at that time in the Deep South, was very powerful in the movement. But it was not she who slugged Sheriff Carr. It was Annie Lee Cooper.
Was it Annie Lee?
Annie Lee, domestic maid. She was 53 years old.
Okay.
She was powerful. Oh, I love that woman. I stayed with her when I go to Selma several times. But she had grown up in Kentucky and was involved in the coal mine wars in Kentucky in the 20s. So she already had heart from the struggle, and she just, one day she wasn't going to take it. And
she wasn't going to let that man hit her.
But yeah, there were the local people that was the movement. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that, Strident.
Thank you.
Where else, or do we have a hand over here?
I think that's it.
No, no, just be patient.
I'm Janet.
Yes, sir.
I have concerns about the North American focus on the issues of freedom, and how that elevation of freedom can suppress the issues of equity.
Of what?
Of equity, of equality. The obsession that we have with individuality, with uniqueness, with significance, with our rights, that enters into the language that we use, has the potential, and I use that very conservatively. That's not really my passionate belief, potential only. But I feel that equity is a problem. Can you share your sense of the balance between people actually experiencing equity over the results of freedom, my rights to be me, to have, to do, over opposed to my responsibilities to share, my responsibilities not to consume?
When you say, I think you're right, but I think that a lot of people who are in movements here do think beyond North America and their individual situations. And I think when you hear people addressing situations in other parts of the world, I think the Vietnam War anti-war movement was one example. When I was in SNCC, we took it upon ourselves to hand out this, do this paper on the war in Vietnam and how we disagreed with it, and we felt people shouldn't be going to it because we felt it wasn't a war that had been explained, nobody knew why they were there, and it had been a secret war for the longest time, and Congress at the beginning didn't even know a war had started. They had planes over there and instruments and guns and stuff, and Congress found out, and they were asking questions about after the war, the conflict, they used to call it the Vietnam conflict, then became known as the Vietnam War. And one of the things that people in the movement, and it expanded beyond the South, obviously, was that the way the media put it, it was like we were against the soldiers. We were against those people who were over there doing these things, and we were for the Vietnamese. What the people were saying is, we're for the soldiers. We don't want these people over there being murdered and killed like this and killing other people, and nobody knows the reason why. And even to this day, a lot of the vets don't understand that our concerns were for them, not for the government, not for the war, but for a war that did not make any sense to any of us. And when Kwame Ture, or Stokely as he was known then, would get up and talk about, hell no, we won't go, SNCC was very much in accord with that because we felt it was an unjust war. And nobody, if you can't explain why you're fighting, then you shouldn't be fighting. Yeah. But a lot of people, you have to be on top of your media to explain your reasoning, because the media is not going to explain it for you. They may not understand it. And as many of the soldiers today don't understand. We were fighting to get them back home. Now, the equity, I see people have a lot of narrow vision, but we don't get a lot of information on a consistent basis. So a lot of people in this country think that this country and everything in it is the end and the be-all of everything. And so we have a problem expanding our concepts in our minds that we are a world. We're not a city or a state or a town, but we are part of the universe, and that we should be concerned about how people are treated no matter where they are and no matter who they are, and that injustice should be fought, and we should support those who fight it wherever they may exist. Did I answer your question? I did? Okay.
Okay. We would have time for one or two more questions. If there are things on your mind, please don't wait, because Fay is only with us now, and take advantage, or as the old song used to say, sinner, don't let this harvest pass. Okay. Camille, is your hand up?
I'll ask for later.
Okay. Well, no, later, there's only 2 questions later, so there's not much later. But you don't have to if you don't want to, but
I'll do it.
please.
Okay.
I just don't want everybody who's here that's been here before to be like, oh my gosh, she's already asked that question 3 times.
But you got 3 different people,
That's right.
so.
That's true.
All right.
Hi, my name is Camille Reeves, and I'm from, I was born in San Antonio, but I was raised in Houston. And the question that I have, that I've asked before, but you're a different person, so probably be a different answer, is how can I, as a person who is working with children and young people, get your experiences in the Southern Freedom Movement across to them? As I've said before, that the textbooks in most schools in my day and in the past and now in the present are written from a very biased point of view. And I'm wanting to discuss some of these issues in my youth group with the kids, but I wanted to know from your experience how you best think that a person such as myself or another youth director could do that.
I think the best thing for me to do would be to put you in contact with people who are working with students who are doing these things on a consistent basis. And I think also there are many people who participated in the movement who have written books, and there are probably some children's books also from their perspective that we could probably get a list together to share with you, and it gives the children or the persons you're dealing with a different perspective based upon those persons who were involved and how they saw it. So you get more than 1 or 2 views, and you don't get a biased view necessarily. It won't be objective because they were involved, but you get an idea of what direction they were coming from and what they were motivated by. But I don't really work with children, so I don't really feel comfortable trying to tell you how to do it. So I would try to share people I know who do those things with you.
So talk to you afterwards.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. This is a wonderful example of a way of being a leader. Saying, I don't know. But I'll find some folks who do, and I'll put you in touch with them.
Okay.
Anybody who hasn't had a chance to speak or ask yet before we go back to 1 or 2 who have, and then we're going to need to stop. But for those of you who haven't had a chance to say or ask anything, this is your time now, and it's available to you. And you want to be able to say, I couldn't. Nobody who hasn't spoken who wants to speak? Please. Good.
My name is Young-hee McDonald. I'm from South Korea. And I just want to thank you so much for tonight.
Thank you.
You're an inspiring leader. And I really like your comments about that we need to create, not waiting for other people to create programs or other things.
Right.
And I really like all those good comments that you made. My question is, if you were a teenager now, here growing up in America right now, what would you be? What do you think you would like to be in the future?
Interesting. What I am. I would like to just be able to follow my own direction, and I'd like to be able to not have people stop me from doing that. For example, when I was growing up in my hometown of Clareton, Pennsylvania, as a black woman, when you got out of high school, you knew you were going to have to leave town. I wanted to leave town anyway, but I knew for me I would have to leave town because there were no jobs available for black people, especially black women. There were jobs available for men in the mill, but when the mill dies, there's no job for the men, white, black, or otherwise. So people are all caught in the same bind. So I just want to be free to explore, and I'd like to see people be free to explore without their progress being interrupted because of who they are or how they look, or somebody else doesn't like their complexion or the color of their skin and all that gobbledygook, because all of those forces are here. My thing is, how do we deal with each other? How do we respect each other? And how do we make room for each other so that we can all live a better situation? Because I'm not in charge of anybody's complexion. I'm not in charge of how high, tall you are, or how poor you are. I'm only in charge of me. So I don't think that I should be trying to charge somebody else with my thoughts or with my existence or how I think. I have to be open to learn and to share, and hopefully, and like people have shared with me, that's how I learn. But I'm not doing anything I didn't want to do. And as a teenager today, I don't know if the computers and things like that, which have added a new dimension to situations, I don't know what I would think about. But I think I'd still be administrator. I think I'd still be involved in, because that's my kind of work. And I've learned that all people from all kinds of walks of life, all kinds of skill areas, came into the movement and made a difference. And you didn't know what they were unless they told you. And so I just see it as being important, just be yourself. And like one student who said, should I be this or be that so I can be more important or more useful to the community? My thing, I don't care if you're skydiving or if you're deep sea diver or if you're an astronaut or if you're a biochemist or if you're an oceanographer, whatever you're doing, you can still be a part of struggle. It doesn't, the job or the profession or the choice you make shouldn't stop that. You should be open to everybody, and all those persons should be involved. Did I answer your question?
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Barbara Pierce, and I grew up in Camden, New Jersey. And I want to thank you for coming tonight. I just find it so inspiring that your belief that we each have a responsibility to kind of be the best we can be and not wait around for a leader. Mm-hmm. So that's just been a really valuable thing I think you've shared. Where did that sense come from in you? Were you kind of born with that, or did it help develop in the movement? That sense that I love that. I wrote down a comment. You said those high muckety mucks or something. That I'd just like to know where that sense came from.
Well, I just feel that nobody has any more sense than me, and therefore, they should not act like they do. And I think about, once again, I go back to my family and my grandmother, my grandfather, and the efforts they tried to make with 11 children, and my grandfather being a sharecropper, and my grandmother, she used to do framing, and she would hand paint photographs, and she would deliver them. And she used to she would take she never left her children anywhere. She'd get her buggy out, she'd put the mattresses in the buggy, the blankets, and she piled all her children in the buggy, and wherever she went, they went with her. And so they saw her doing this work. But they saw her also be constant with them in their lives. And so even though you don't know you're learning from your parents or your relatives, you're taking in all these things, but you don't know you're taking it in. It's just there. They give you all these little things like you lie down with dogs, you get up with fleas. You don't know that they mean don't mess with this certain kind of group or this certain kind of persons because they are not in your best interest. But they don't tell you that. You have to figure it out. They don't tell you all kinds of little sayings. And we were talking about it yesterday. I can't recall them right now. But that were little lessons that they had learned, they passed on to you, and you really, I had a little girlfriend, my aunt used to say, I don't want you playing with that girl. I was 13. I said, but she's my friend. I want to play with her. And she hasn't done anything to me, and she can't make me do anything. So that's when she used the little analogy about lie down with dogs, get up with fleas. But I told her, I said, look, I have sense enough. If she does something wrong that I don't like, then I won't hang out with her anymore. But I will make that decision. I wanted to make the decision. They knew what they were talking about because they had the information. I had to get it. But once I got it, because I remember she and I went in the store one time, we came out this little, it's 5 and dime, and she had a pocket full of stuff. And I said, where'd you get all that stuff? I didn't see you pay for anything. And she had stolen all this stuff. And it scared me. And I never went to the store with her again. But I knew enough about myself to make a decision about that. And I think that came from my family. I saw my aunts growing, you know, they were young women. They were pretty women. They had boyfriends. They had struggles. And so some of the struggles they had, I didn't have to have because I already saw their struggles. So certain things I escaped by already having that experience through them. And I remember the first time a man hit me. Like, I was shocked. I didn't know a man would ever hit me, but I knew right then and there that the relationship was over immediately. There was nothing else to talk about because in my family, women didn't allow men to hit them. But if I hadn't had that experience with them, I might have stayed a year, 2 years, or 3 years, or been mangled or maimed or hurt worse because I didn't know that. But I had that experience and I used it based upon what I saw happen to them. So, you know, the lessons came in so many ways. And they would always tell me, I had one aunt say, stand up tall, you're beautiful. Walk like a queen. And so I'd always have to remember to keep my shoulders back and head up, you know, when I was around her. And so people were giving you lessons. People in the community say, you're beautiful, or you're strong, or why don't you do this, or why don't you do that? So people were always telling you what their impression of you was. But if children, and by so many people being separated from their families, a lot of children don't get these influences. A lot of children have to now be raised by a mother and a father. The grandmother is out of state, the grandfather is out of state, the cousins are somewhere else, and so you don't have these units. And now you have a problem where 1 or 2 people are trying to do what it used to take 10 people to do, and it's really messing up. So I think that people really need to try to connect their children with their cousins, first, second, and third. Keep those connections with older generations so young people know what old is, and it's not something abnormal. Yeah. You know, but I think those things help me a lot.
I like that part about young people knowing what old is. We are going to round up now. We've worked our sister very hard.
This is good.
Yes, and you are good.
Thank you.
And it's just been very, very good for you to share in the way that you have. And all through the break, people were just saying to me what they said to you publicly, how much this meant to them, how much they gained from it. And as we often say, even beyond words can say, people were trying to indicate that this was just a very powerful experience for them. I'd like to ask us to recognize the fact that this is the last in our series of the Veterans of Hope for this academic year, and we ought to acknowledge it in some way. Before we do that, Rachel has an announcement about 2 other wonderful opportunities for us to come in touch with human beings of great spirit and great power. And I would invite you to listen to it and to take it seriously. Rachel? Yes.
the center is co-sponsoring with the Iowa School of Theology 2 absolutely fantastic courses this summer. One of them is called Poetry as a Spiritual Practice. It's a writing workshop with Sonia Sanchez and Lucille Clifton, just amazing African-American women poets. And it will be held from the 10th through the 14th of July. And anyone who's interested.
And could everybody stand up? And could everybody come as close as you can? And get close to Fay so you can really be in her presence.
That's sweet. Thank you. This is so sweet.
And then some of you know that I am obsessed by a song that we changed around some. The song that was originally We Are Climbing Jacob's Ladder, but that we've changed to We Are Building Up a New World. We are building up a new world. We are building up a new world. Builders must be strong.
All right.
Can we do that? Mm-hmm. We are building up a new world. We are building up a new world. We are building up a new world. Builders must be strong. Another stanza. Courage, wait, courage, sisters, don't get weary. Courage, brothers, don't get weary. Courage, people, don't get weary, though the way be long. Courage, sisters, don't get weary. Courage, brothers, don't get weary. Courage, people, don't get weary, though the way be long. One last stanza. You're all sounding so good. We're just going to try this on for a little bit. The last stanza. Rise, shine, give God glory. Rise, shine, give God glory. Rise, shine, give God glory. Children of the light. Rise, shine, give God glory. Rise, shine, give God glory. Rise, shine, give God glory. Children of the light. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Sister Fay.
I enjoyed it.
And now you have to go home.
Thank you, everybody. It's been rewarding to me, too. Appreciate it.
It's so good to see you. Yeah.
You're
Did you know?
Strong, healthy man.
Oh, I learned some of it there. You had to be. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
Faith Meyer. I live in Denver.
Okay.
Grew up in Southwest Iowa.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
that's just about all I can say.
Well, I appreciate
You're
it.
terrific.
See, when I come to talk, I feel like I don't have anything to say.
Oh, you do. And we were